And welcome to the 700 Club Canada, Donald. You know, I'm excited about the opportunity to sit with you because we've done a lot about human trafficking, but we've never had a trafficker on before to talk. You know, when you look at your childhood, take us back. What type of childhood did you have?
It seems, Brian, from the time I was born, I was tossed from pillar to post. There wasn't a moment of peace in my life. I remember 5 years old, I've already wanted to leave home. And
Wow,
I ran at 5 years old. I couldn't wait to get away from structure and discipline. And I thought if I could just be on my own and do what I want to do. There was just that rebellious streak, and I was void of natural affection.
You know, when you look at Quebec growing up at that time, what was your faith and everything? Did you have a faith at that time?
Yes, my parents were people of God. Our family fell apart. I was very young, but my mom did her best to raise us in the faith. It seemed that every effort she made, we were always against the wall. I was always getting in with the wrong gangs in school. I always looked for a sense of belonging, but my sense of belonging wasn't with the people of God. It seemed to me like they were living such a boring, unsatisfying life, and it seemed like the outside world had so much entertainment, so much to offer, and I felt restraint. I just wanted to get out there as fast as I could. I remember stealing my mom's car. I actually didn't steal it, but I had planned the whole thing out, and then I got caught on my way doing it. And there was just a relentless pursuit for me to get away from my mom and my brothers, my sister. I just wanted to get away. I didn't want any kind of godliness or any kind of structure around me.
And Donald, that really caused you to find companionship and also just family in some very unusual places. Tell us about that.
Well, I left home, I was 15. I finally made the choice. My mom had come up to me and she says, you know, Donald, she says, we got to move again, change schools because you're into the wrong gang. And at that point, I was a little bit stronger and I thought, you know what, I could do this on my own. So I looked at my mom and I said, you know what, this time you're not moving, I am. So she fell apart. And I remember getting out of that door, saying to myself, I will never, ever see your face again.
Wow. Was your mom in tears?
Oh, she was weeping. And I remember her saying, don't forget God, you know?
Yeah.
And I walked away hard, calloused. It seemed like I had no emotion attached to that. And I just got harder and harder and then I went a couple thousand miles away. You know, you can run from God, but you can't hide.
Yes. Talking about that, you know, when you went, you actually began to now go into more of the gang world, but also with drugs and started dating a girl at that time too.
See, it wasn't easy for me to infiltrate the drug world or the gangsterism world. It's not something that happened overnight either. It took a little while. First of all, people noticed that I was different because I had such a conservative upbringing.
Yeah.
So I was on the streets being polite. I was on the streets with a better behavior, and it showed up in everything I did. So when I would get into sort of a little gang, they'd say, there's something different about you.
Yeah.
And I knew that was God, and it got on my nerves. And I thought, how do I get rid of this?
Difference.
Yeah, this religious look, right? So I worked hard at trying to look like them and behave like them. And I found I had to break down a lot of the upbringing that I had. I had to deprogram a lot of the thinking.
Did you ever feel remorse during this time about that? Were you ever feeling like, you know what, I know this is wrong?
Absolutely. Your conscience is the most faithful tool. It bothers you 24/7, but you fight it and you fight it. And this is how you end up taking drugs and alcohol to try to null that feeling.
Yeah, to drown those feelings. Yeah. Your girlfriend at that time, you shared something that you began to not only connect with pimps, but you were the one that put her into the world of sex trafficking.
Well, I started drug dealing, and crack cocaine was big at that time. And I was doing drug deals, and some of the drug deals don't always go the way you want. Cash flow wasn't coming in the way I wanted. So I ended up in the strip clubs. And then I started in one episode of my life, And then she started stripping in the clubs. And then it escalated from there. And I remember doing this one drug deal that just absolutely changed everything. So she introduced me to one of the top human traffickers in Canada. And he said to me, he looked at me and he said, "You'll never have to work another day of your life."
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, is this something in relatively a big city, or is it a small city? Where's this happening?
This was happening in Calgary. Wow. So we had strolls in Calgary, Regina, and Winnipeg at that time. And Regina was a prime spot because it was a convention city. So I got my training, which he would call MAC training, which is the top level of pimping.
Yeah.
So he says, "I'll make you hardcore," and he says, "You'll be respected, and I'll give you some turfs in these 3 cities."
Wow. How did your heart turn around? What did God do to get that hard heart now to?
Well, there was 2 experiences that happened to me. The first one was going up to my hotel room one day. I had an experience where I lost complete control. I was completely, it seemed like I was possessed, and my hands were going towards my face to disfigure myself. And I was trying to pluck my eyes out. And I panicked. I had never had such an experience in my life. And my hands were reaching towards my face, and I wanted to scream, and I thought if I scream, all the traffickers and all the gangsters would come out of their hotel room. We used to run that hotel. It was a 15th-floor hotel. We used to sell crack and prostitution. Yeah. So we were the top guys in there, and I thought if I scream, I'm gonna lose my turfs. So I crumbled against the wall, and I fell. I sat there, and I said, "God, if you take this away from me, I promise I'll give you my life one day." And immediately when I said that, the most outstanding love and peace surrounded me. I could physically touch it.
Wow.
It was as if you had taken me from a freezer where I was shaking to death and put me in the most awesome place of peace and awesomeness.
When did it stick, though?
See, I went into my room that time, and I knew something had happened. I was walking on air. I had never felt such tangible peace and love. It was incredible. But I was so hard that I still didn't want to give in. What happened is, shortly after that, my life totally fell apart with crime, and I was up against the wall. My life was in danger, and my health was gone. Yeah. And I decided, you know what? I got a little old mom at home. Her health is not well. I'm gonna go out and maybe seek her God to see if he can do something for me. Yeah. So I told the police and everybody around me, I said, you know what, I'm leaving Calgary and I want to go to Montreal. But I had met a taxi driver that had a real impact on my life. He was ex-mafia that had given his life to Jesus Christ. And he had offered to pay my flight. Wow. I had never seen this guy. And he said to me, he says, the way that you live is the way to destruction. And he says, come to my church tonight, give your life to the Lord. He had gotten saved, turned into a minister. So I said, even if I go to your church, I can't get saved there. He says, why is that, boy? I said, well, I have a praying mother at home, and if I want to make things right, that's where I got to go. He says, I'll make a deal with you. He says, I'll pay your airfare. You go home. So I didn't take his offer, but it beat me up because it convicted me. So when he dropped me off at the bar, I couldn't even order my drink anymore. And I went home and I told one of the girls that worked for me the most, I says, you know what? Something's going to happen in my life. I'm changing. I want to give my life over to the Lord. Yeah. And I went home and I went to my mom's church. And one day I had a road to Damascus experience that completely changed my life. Amen. The power of God hit me like lightning, and I dropped to my knees, repented. And when I woke up the next day, it's as if I had never been a trafficker, never been a dealer, and I've never, ever looked back. And I went across the country to
Go God.
And I just went and made restitutions and went loving people.
Go God. You know, I believe that this is so critical for us to dig into a little bit more. And we'll be right back with part 2 with Donald. So don't go away. This is very fascinating.